Good evening and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendez. Hope you guys are all good on your Wednesday evening. This is the big match preview coming at you a day early, of course, because we're looking ahead to Friday's home game with Bristol City at the Valley. A Good Friday game against Roy Hodgson, who's been resurrected specifically to manage Bristol City in the theme of Easter over the Easter weekend. So joining me to look ahead to that game, first up, top right, a man with a lack of sleep at the moment. It's Joe Puddyfoot. Head in, Joe.
Yeah, very good. As you mentioned, very, very tired. Got a newborn here, so just not 2 weeks old yet, but lots of nappies, lots of crying. But other than me, the baby's all good, so that's the most important thing.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Bottom right is Mark Newbury. How do you, Mark?
Yeah, been there, worn that hat a couple of times, so he has my total sympathies. So, no, I'm all good, mate. I'm all good.
Lovely stuff. And then bottom left, fresh from moving, is Sue Gallop. How you doing, Sue?
I'm good. I'm a bit tired, but I'm good. I'm good. Happy.
We've got a lethargic podcasters with us this evening, so we'll see how we get on. So, as I said, on tonight's show, we're going to be looking ahead to the Bristol City game. We're going to hear from the Addicts boss, Nathan Jones, ahead of that game as well. We've got Tom from the Robin's Nest who's going to come and tell us all about what's going on down at Ashton Gate at the moment, which is, all sorts going on there. We'll discuss it ourselves, I think, a little bit in the first half of the show, because there's a lot to talk about in terms of Bristol City at the moment, and that's who we are, of course, playing on Good Friday at 3 o'clock at the Valley. We want to hear from you guys as well. Good evening to everyone who's joining us in the chat. As Sam says, it feels like ages since the last show, rather than just over a week, but it's another important game where hopefully we can pick up 3 points. Bernie says just win. That's all that is required. So if you want to have your say on this evening's show, you can email us studio@charltonlive.co.uk. You can tweet us at Charlton Live. You can put a comment in the live chat like Sam's done, or you can just try and walk onto the screen like Mark's kids have done at the moment. But those are different ways you can get involved with the show this evening. Let us know your thoughts ahead of the game over the weekend. How do you see Nathan lining us up? How much are you looking forward to seeing the Addicts face Roy Hodgson for the first ever time, which is fascinating as well. But I was thinking about this earlier, Joe. It's also the Easter weekend of football, massively underrated weekend of football. You get 2 games over it. Interestingly, we won't get this next year because the international break is going to be over the Easter weekend next year. So we're not going to get the Good Friday, Easter Monday double, which we've enjoyed for so many years. But I always look forward to this time of year. It's crunch time. For us, we've almost crunched what we need to crunch. There's a little bit more crunching to do between now and the end of the season. And if we have a good weekend, we can draw a massive line under any concerns, if anyone has any, before after the Watford game, and hopefully just enjoy the rest of the season.
Yeah, I'm not a religious man. The Valley is the closest I get to a church in my life, and so my pilgrimage on Easter weekend being cruelly taken away next season is not one I'm massively keen on. I think it's one of those weekends, isn't it? It's a weekend for family. It's a weekend for switching off a little bit, and it will be a massive shame to not have the football, but this is one of those weekends where we can just get the other side of this and then start looking forward to August next year. Because if you can pick up probably one win's probably enough. You'd be at worst 9 points clear with 6 to go. And I did a little summary on Charlton Live group chat a few weeks ago, I think, which was 8 games to go. No one's ever been relegated with more than the 5-point lead. Only 2 teams with a 5-point lead. We were one of them. So classic Charlton from the Championship. So yeah, it'd be nice. And it also interesting looking forward to this weekend. Could easily play 2 new managers because we're playing Watford on Monday, and you wouldn't put it past them to go for a new manager over a weekend, would you? So lots of things to look forward to, and just nice to be back at the Valley tomorrow, especially for me. I missed the last one. Yeah,
well, you had something on, didn't you? Which is fair enough. But so, Mark, I mean, Easter fixture is always exciting, and particularly, I mean, this is a big one for us. You know, I sort of said before, you know, obviously we lost to Norwich last time out, a game we shouldn't have lost. We've had a couple of those recently at home, obviously the Wrexham game as well. But overall, if we're not there already, we're pretty much there. So I have been trying to change the narrative a little bit now, and I've noticed Nathan Jones doing that when we hear from him later on as well. It's more talking about finishing as high up the table as we can get now. That's sort of what I've got as my hope now for the rest of the season. I'm not sitting here going, I really hope we stay up, because as far as I'm concerned, we're effectively there. We just need to actually get the final couple of points. So I am sort of looking up the table now. How high can we finish, that sort of thing? How strong can we end this season? You remember the first time or the time we came up under Powley, and there was probably around the Easter weekend, you know, some nerves about whether we'd get dragged into a relegation battle again. We ended up finishing 9th and only 3 points off the playoffs. That's sort of like, you know, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen this season, but it'd be nice to have a strong end to the campaign and actually finish much nearer the middle of the table than the bottom end of it.
Oh, no, totally. I mean, we're also with the 2 opponents coming up. We're a bit chalk and cheese. Watford, I think, still have one eye on moving up a bit. Bristol, as we know, have been in such turmoil for the last couple of months. I mean, the fact that they've had to get Roy out of Carbonite to go down there, and a man who, you know, admittedly knows nothing about the Championship and who the teams he's going to be playing. So we always say, oh, it's a good time to play them, but we said that after we played when we were going to play Portsmouth, and look what happened there. So I mean, it's good to see that Nathan's positive, and like he said, he's looked back, he's watched the games, and he's seen a lot of positivity, and he knows that it is for fine details, it's for finishing. That's what we had enough chances. It's having someone on that pitch who can finish those chances, and hopefully now he's had the rest. If Matty Godden's fit and can be that option, you know, up front, he knows that there's a good enough side there, there's a good enough spine. If they don't make the silly mistakes and decamp halfway into their own penalty box when the other teams are attacking, that we can get something. And there's no reason not to be hopeful. As to where we can finish, I mean, look, anywhere in the next 2 or 3 places above, I would take it. I would take that now, because I think it's literally a progression. It's a journey. It's an old cliche. You've just got to improve season on season. You know, we weren't going to finish in the top 6. You know, we did look over our shoulder a fair bit over sort of like November, going, it's a bit close. But as Joe says, I mean, we've managed to grind out results and get results when we've really, really needed them. And so I think that's what's kept us in sort of like a good stead. And there were sort of like 1 or 2 players there who have really played out their skin for us this season. I mean, Lloyd Jones, it's the fact that he wins, you know, Player of the Month, month after month after month. His consistency and the way he leads, I think, is really one of the shining things. No doubt we'll do a season sort of like review at the end, and it's to him who's going to be the main talking point, I think, because he's been so immense for us. And I think that sort of like radiates out now when he knows he's got Amari Bell on one side and Ramsey on the other side. You know, I think we're just looking solid, and I think we can turn teams over, and we might get a few more points than we think. They said we were going to get 55 of the old supercomputer. We could end up 58 or 60. There's no reason we can't.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting. So Liam says he thinks that maybe I'm being slightly naive to say we're safe. We can go on a bad run, as we've seen before. But I mean, we've got 7 games left to go. I mean, let's say we only need 2 points to stay up. I mean, it would take something spectacular for us to not pick up 2 points in 7 games. So that's why I just can't Like I just can't see it happening in any way. Like it would be one of the biggest footballing disasters ever if we managed to get ourselves relegated from this position. Sam says he feels that if he does feel if we pick up 4 points from these two games, it would definitely help. Dr. Peculiar says Opta apparently has a 0.99% chance to be relegated. Looking at the table, I'm not so sure. Like, so less than 1% of us getting relegated. I mean, it seems so unlikely to me, Sue. I mean, James saying we aren't safe until we get 51 or 52. The bottom four play each other on Monday until we get those points. Let's not count our chickens. But I've got a whole load of chickens out the back, and I've counted them already. Like, I honestly can't. I mean, it would take something utterly bizarre from now, Sue. Surely.
Yeah, I mean, I think with if we've got Harvey and Matty coming back into the squad, we're pretty much at full strength for the rest of the season with a bit of luck. So I can't see us getting pulled into anything. I think some of the other performances we've had recently, I go back to the Middlesbrough game that probably no one expected us to win, and I think we've got that in us. So I feel like we've got too much about us to get pulled into it, and I think obviously with the bottom teams playing each other over the weekend, there's going to be other than obviously the draws, but there's going to be people that come out with negative points, isn't there? So it's I don't feel like we're in any danger in getting pulled into that at all.
Yeah, I honestly think we'll be fine, and I look forward to everyone clipping this and putting it on social media when we get relegated, and I look like an absolute moron, but I can't see it happening. Looking ahead to who we're facing on Good Friday, I mean, even before obviously the managerial change, they looked to be in some sort of trouble. Bristol City, the fans had started to turn up when they got knocked out of the FA Cup at Port Vale a few weeks ago. Their fans were singing "You're not fit to wear the shirt," and there's a definite feeling that they've been stagnating a bit in the second tier for too long, Joe. And now they've made a managerial appointment, which, I mean, it certainly raised some eyebrows. I want to try and put this into some form of context. So when Ben Garner was our manager, it's a bit of a long story. I remember us playing Wickham away, and it happened more so in League One, but often you get sort of quite young journalists who may be sort of studying a little bit, and they'll come into the huddle and ask a couple of questions at the end. And I remember at this game away at Wickham, and we were interviewing Ben Garner, and this young lad, like looked about 18 or something, asked Garner a couple of questions. And after, he sort of said to Ben, do you remember me? You were my PE teacher. This kid was probably about 18, something like that. And Ben went, yeah, I knew I recognised you from somewhere. If Roy Hodgson bumped into my uncle over the weekend, we could have the same exchange. My uncle's 61. Like, just to give you an example of how old that Roy Hodgson is. I mean, a 78-year-old coming into management again. It's incredible. He was my uncle's PE teacher briefly at a school in Croydon 50 years ago. Obviously, it's his second stint managing Bristol City. You know, he's got former England manager, former Palace manager, successful at Palace, not so much with England, former Liverpool manager. He's managed in some of the biggest places. He's one of the most respected people in football for what he's achieved and his longevity in the game. But, I mean, if we just got rid of our manager, I don't think I would have asked for Roy Hodgson to come out of retirement and manage us for 7 games. It's a bizarre one for me, Joe. And I mean, we'll hear from our Bristol City correspondent coming up a bit later, Tom, about their reaction to this press conference he did. But his press conference was basically, I don't really know much about Championship football these days. Yeah, looking forward to it, though.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure you're going to get too much of a new manager bounce. And if Roy Hodgson does go for a new manager bounce, he's more likely to dislocate a hip than he is to get any sort of altitude. So he's going to have to be very, very careful. And I do hope that someone has a little word with Nathan Jones and explains if he's not ready for the handshake, it's probably because he's still trying to get up out the dugout, as opposed to the theatrics that we had last week. It's a strange one. It's going around. Didn't Warnock just become manager at Torquay or something mad for, a couple of weeks? I know that we've had the charity partner mind, in the EFL for a while, but I'm sure sounds as if it's going to be help the aged. It's going to be the next one, because if you're past it, then apparently you can do anything you want. He brings a wealth of experience. Obviously, he knows it. He doesn't mind it being a short-term appointment. It gets them through to the summer. They don't really need, anything, to stay up. I mean, if we did beat them 10-0 on Saturday, we would go above them, and we're saying we're out of the relegation hunt. So I think they're definitely out. And it's just a bit of a strange one all round. The thing that I don't understand is if you decide you need a change and you've got 7 games left, why not go hell for leather to get yourself a manager to see the squad for 7 games and think, right, what do I need to bring in next year? What do I need to, adjust in and around the training ground over the summer? And who are my core components for my squad for next year? So you can start building those foundations. And they've parachuted a man in who apparently, despite being in football for all these years, doesn't have a Sky TV subscription, and hasn't caught up with anything. It's just absolutely bizarre. And I'm actually quite disappointed he's gone in there, because I was really looking forward to the banter of Glasgow doing something tragic and getting hoofed out, and then bringing Roy in again at Palace to see them through to the summer. And I've got my partner's family of Crystal Palace fans, and I had a few people that I was getting quite excited to call if that was going to happen. And I don't think them paying a release fee from Bristol City is going to be very high on the odds. So it's a strange one all round, but it does provide a interesting talking point. And he can't say he's completed football if he's not managed at the Valley. So nice for him to tick us off his bucket list, even if it has taken him pretty much until the bucket.
Yeah, I mean, it's an incredible career he's had. So I think I was looking the other day. He's managed over 1,200 games, might even be more. It's quite hard to pick up these stats on Wikipedia and that. His first managerial role in England was in 1982 at Bristol City for a brief stint. That was 44 years ago. He had actually managed abroad before then as well. But he's coming into a club, like we say, who are sort of on their uppers at the moment. I think they lost some big players like Anis Mehmeti and Zach Viner in the summer. Gerhard Struber, I think, was actually considered quite a good coach. He was the manager that kept Barnsley up over us when we went down in 2020 during COVID. So I mean, it's certainly a very, very strange appointment. Liam says Mark was his assistant back in the day. I'm pretty sure, in charge of pumping up the footballs and tidying up the skipping ropes. Was that at Bristol City in the first stint, Mark? Or I mean, what do you feel about his appointment for Bristol City? I mean, like as I said, if it happened to us, how would you feel if we were in their shoes?
Well, you know me. I give people a balanced chance. I have no dislike of anybody, apart from the fact that when he was brought out of retirement, I put him back on my list. So I'm really not a Hodgson fan, and it's too much to go into now why, but it's just weird. It's just weird. I don't get it. I don't see what he brings, because especially in an international break like this, where they've had players away, they're going to turn up, see this old guy wandering around in a tracksuit, and then sort of like say to him, "Are you lost, mate? Are you lost? Is it?"
That's how we feel when you're on the show.
That's all right. I don't mind bringing the average up, because I bring up the average IQ as well, so I'm fine with that. So it's all good. But no, it's weird. But I don't know who else you would get in if you're not going to promote one of the coaches from within, which would have been the sensible thing to do, because he knows the players. Because Roy's going to have to really heavily lean on the coaches who are there, because he's not bringing in a team. I mean, bringing a manager, they normally bring in their goalkeeping coach, set piece coach, all that kind of thing. He hasn't got anyone to bring in. So he's going to do a lot of reliance on the coaches who are there, and I don't understand it. Also, he knows it's only a short term. They've got people out of contract. Bristol City is not going to be a good choice for people who are thinking, oh, no, we need to get some players for next season. Well, we don't know who our manager is. We don't know where we are. And it's a real kind of like cluster bugger up. So it's a weird one. I don't get it. I really don't. I think if you're going to throw money at someone and you think you're going to get someone in with some passion, like Neil Warnock, I know he's a Torquay, but at least with Warnock, you're getting 100% psychotic. With Roy, you're not getting that. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, they're talking about the standards he's going to bring, and I was speaking with Rich last night. He talks about Roy is known for his consistency and the way he sort of drives those standards into clubs, and that's why he's had such a successful career over so many years. Is because there is obviously something that he's about. But if you can sort of do that in the space of 5 weeks, 7 games, that'll be another thing coming. Mark says it's another toxic fan base. An early goal for us will turn the Bristol City crowd on their side. But as Andrew points out, an early goal would be a bit of a turn up. I mean, you still have to go back to the 5-1 home defeat against Southampton for the last time we scored a goal in the first half at home. So an early goal would be very, very nice indeed. We're 5-0 down at that point as well when we did that. So it's relatively pointless goal that we've scored. Neil says that we're almost over the line. It'd be nice to see us set out to win and not be so focused on defending and losing. Dr. Peculiar said that Roy's presser was shocking. If I'm honest, he looked and sounded very unprepared. It would be great to get a win. I mean, he said something interesting about us too. I don't know if you saw this comment about how he sort of made out that he was looking less forward to playing us now that he realises he's got no centre halves and he's heard how Charlton play, which I don't know, leans towards he thinks we're going to be quite direct and that sort of thing. But I mean, in the space of like a week, Mark just said I cooked for him at the restaurant years ago. Was that his school dinner? And that was. It's hard to go into a team that's underperforming in the space of a week and try and turn them around. But at the same time, sometimes if you can put a bit of steel into a side and they have got someone they want to impress, even if it is only for a few weeks, then maybe he will have an effect and make it difficult for us on Good Friday.
I feel like, just going on what other people are saying, is that I think managers that tend to do well in the Championship are managers that know the league well and know the teams in that league well. And I haven't seen the press conference, but if he hasn't got that knowledge of the league and even how we play, I mean, obviously people will have watched us and will be giving them that information if they're still around as well. But it feels like this is one of those games that's almost right for picking. That you've got a manager coming in as experienced as he is, already in his own words, he's saying that he doesn't know a lot about the Championship and he doesn't really know. Well, he obviously doesn't know a lot about us because we haven't been in the Prem for such a long time. He's not going to be. How do you prepare a side? If you're not up with what's going on in that league and how those teams set up and how they play, obviously he's going to get to learn it pretty quick. But for Friday, having only been in the job, what, a week will it be by Friday? I'm not sure how he's going to prepare for that. And if he has got players that are missing, that are potentially their better players, then he's going to really struggle. But as we know, we've heard that he's an amazing man manager. So if anyone's going to motivate a team that are down on their luck and motivation, then he's going to be someone that's going to be able to bring that I'm not going to say energy because he's 81, but that knowledge back and that sort of enthusiasm for the game. So, but I feel quite confident about Friday.
You've aged him 3 years. He's only 78, Sue. Give him his dues. He's a young whippersnapper compared to what you said. But Bernie says we shouldn't be too optimistic about there being no manager bounce. Roy might not know much about the Championship, but being a good man manager will count for a lot as well. We've spoken quite a lot about Bristol City and their manager. James says hopefully he thinks there's still only one sub that you're allowed to do. But on us, obviously, I mean, we've had lads out and about. We've all the guys who went out to Jamaica. So TC, who played the Lions share of yesterday's game, Amari Bell came off. I mean, they've got to deal with quite a few things. First of all, they've obviously got to deal with the disappointment of getting so close, but not qualifying for the World Cup. It sounds like, so I only watched the first 10 minutes and TC wasn't much involved in that, but apparently really got into the game in the second half and he had Aaron Wan-Bissaka on toast. So, yeah, apparently he's the worst player of all time, according to some, but it sounds like he can actually perform and had a Premier League fullback on toast in the second half of that game. So they've got to deal with the travel, they've got to deal with the disappointment, they've got to deal with the jet lag, all these sort of things. I mean, can you see that either of them starting on Friday, Joe?
TC started after every international break, hasn't he? Pretty much flying back in. There may be one that I've forgotten, but I'm pretty confident in that. So I don't know. I think that I would like to see us play an extra attacking player. Myself, I've been moaning about it for a little while now. In the early start of the season, when we had obviously the Apter in on one side, and you had Edwards on the left, I sort of felt that was sort of some of our better play. And so I wouldn't mind seeing TC deployed a bit wider with a different combination up front of maybe Kelman and Dykes, but you just don't know. It all depends on how well the journeys go getting back and how they feel after recovering. I know it's an artificial pitch as well, which aren't always the easiest or best quality pitches to be playing on. So yeah, it'll be difficult to second guess it, but I just hope that we go with a team that is fresh and that is ready to go from the start. And I think if TC's ended in a really good way in the second half, if you think you're only going to get maybe 45 minutes from him, I'd probably save him for the second half and have him attacking towards that covered end where you've got the crowd up as well. And I think that will definitely help him. But he is definitely, one of those players that I think that is a massive confidence player. So if he's got good confidence, you could argue it the other way. Don't stop his momentum. But Bell, regardless, if he'd have played all the game, you'd be wanting him in there, even if his hamstrings didn't want to do it, because he is just a cut above at this level and is so assured and confident at the back. And it's a strange one. If you keep 2 clean sheets over the Easter weekend, then you're probably saying you're done and dusted for relegation. But, if not mathematically, almost certainly by the time you finish the game against Sheffield Wednesday. So I would have him in there. And the only other thing is it's a Friday, this one, instead of a Saturday. So they are going to be getting back that 24 hours sort of closer to kickoff. So I wouldn't be astounded if TC was safe for Monday. So I've rambled a lot. I've changed my mind. TC's going to be on the bench and he'll start on Monday. There's a synopsis for you.
There we go, lovely. I mean, that's what we got you in for, Joe. So thanks for doing that. Ed's asking what position he played out there for Jamaica. So it was wide of a 3. So it looked like they were playing like a 4-2-3-1. I mean, that's what it looked like on the bit of the stream I watched, and FOTMob is saying that as well. So he was playing wider. Mark's, Liam sort of pointing out he's had plenty of chances to try and shine this season. Mark sort of saying, though, in what position, though, left wing back, or if he's playing up top, is that not giving him the position to get out there as well? So who knows? Who knows exactly what we'll sort of go for there, Mark? I mean, in terms of team news yourself, Mark, is there any changes you're desperate to see? Obviously, Lyndon Dykes has played only a few minutes for Scotland. Was it last night? But they played the Ivory Coast away, which they happen to play their home games in Liverpool, thankfully, it turns out. So he's played in the UK effectively, not far away. So he'll be rested enough, I suspect, to start if we want to see him start. I mean, judging by what Roy said and their lack of centre halves, and he seems to be a little worried about an aerial threat, would you go for the much maligned Dykes and Leaburn front two and just pump the ball along and just see if their 0 centre halves can deal with that?
As much as I'd like Charlie to start up front, I think he will go with Leaburn and Dykes, just purely for that reason. And Nathan, he has faith in that pair. For us, it's getting the service to them. That's the thing. There's no point in having 2 up front who are decent in the air if you're not getting any service to them, and we're being timid and sideways passing in midfield. I think this would be an ideal one to bring Rankin Costello in, just to give us a bit of invention, which I think we've been sort of like missing, and I think he's got that. So defensively, I'd like Bell to start, but I don't think, and it's not, disparaging to Bristol to say they haven't got people who can hurt us, because all the teams in the Championship have got players who can hurt you. But if you've got, 3 of your back 4 or back 5 starting, maybe if Sechenche's back as well, we don't know, Ramsey, Lloyd, just slitting in maybe Gillespie into the back there. He might do that if he thinks Bell is going to not recover as well enough. Then we've just got to be a bit more fluid and a bit more forward going, and not try it and not be nervous about it. And it's like, that's why, me, I always play the one card every week out of the dice which says, is it Ibi Fuller? Because I just think he's got that X factor about him. He doesn't play with fear. So, and I'm thinking, play him on the left, on that side, putting some crosses in, because he's got a great engine on him. And I think some energy on that side, if you want to play, whether you play two up front or one up front with two behind, I don't know. But I can see Clark getting a goal this week. I really can. I think for all his work he's been putting in.
Yeah, he's got closer and closer every week, isn't he, without being able to find that final touch. Right, let's have a quick break. When we come back, we will continue to look ahead to the Good Friday fixture with Bristol City.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello, fellow addicts. I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. We're gearing up for the Good Friday game at the Valley against Bristol City. Delighted to say that we're now joined by a man who's seen what's been going on at Ashton Gate over the last few weeks and has immediately fled the country. He's joined us from his holiday. Really grateful to Tom from the Robin's Nest. Tom, where are you?
I'm in Budapest at the moment, mate.
Oh,
good
lovely.
to see you all.
Yeah, good. No, great to have you on the show. Thanks for giving up some time while you're away. I made the joke about the fact you fled the country, but I think pretty much everyone in the away end at Port Vale a few weeks ago wanted to. What on earth has been going on? And with this latest twist as well of Roy Hodgson coming in, how are you guys feeling down there?
I mean, it doesn't feel real that 78-year-old Roy Hodgson is our manager at the moment. I'm convinced that all the videos the club are tweeting are just AI at the moment. It's crazy, I'll be honest.
What was your? I mean, I've seen your reaction on your channel. Actually, it's a really interesting video. But just to share it with our viewers, when you heard that Gerhard Struber, who it's not been going great over the last few months, but I was still under the impression he was still sort of in favour with City fans. Is that fair? When you heard that he was going, and then the next thing you saw was the fact that Roy Hodgson was coming in. I mean, you must have been absolutely gobsmacked because I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Oh yeah, Struber was somewhat critical, I'd say, of our board in the media, and that doesn't tend to end well for managers at Bristol City. So to see him sacked, and obviously with our results, wasn't massively surprising. But yeah, I mean, Roy Hodgson is, I don't know, I still don't know what to say about it, to be honest. I guess all will be revealed in our next couple of games when he's in charge of us.
Yeah, it's quite nice for you, I suppose, to have a manager that is older than the NHS, and also Velcro fastenings, which was invented a year after he was born. So I don't know how he did his shoes up for the first 12 months, but que sera. What are you guys sort of expecting coming into Friday then? Is it going to be one of those where if it doesn't get an immediate sort of new manager bounce and positivity, that the fans are going to be sort of quite upset and vocal, or is everyone just sort of quite interested to see what on earth is going to happen?
I'd definitely say that the fans are a majority of the fans, I'd say, are not too happy with those running the football club at the moment. Although with how he's behaved in interviews so far, I think we've all already warmed to Roy Hodgson, to be honest. He kind of just says it how it is and doesn't really care. But in terms of what to expect, I think I caught the back end of you folks talking about our lack of centre-backs. And to be honest, I know we were poor under Struber towards the end, but I'm personally struggling to see how Roy can really improve us with the players we have available. Really, I mean, we don't have a single player in our team that is good at winning aerial duels, and I think that's one of the basics of football that you need to win games. And I don't know what we're going to do, to be honest. I've heard you're going to play likely to play Lyndon Dykes up front, which absolutely terrifies me, to be honest.
Let's try and be a bit more positive, Tom. Right. So, who are your standout performers? Who's going to cause us a bit of bother, if at all?
Well, I reckon our two number 10s that will probably play in Scott Twine and Tommy Horvat are tidy players. I think with Anis Vermette leaving, Scott Twine is amongst now our top scorers. So I'd say those two are pretty dangerous. And two of our midfielders, and Jason Knight and Adam Randall, are probably our two best players, really. Adam Randall, who we picked up on a cheap deal from Plymouth in the summer, has probably been our best player this season. That's kind of where I'd say our threats come from.
Hey, Tom. The game we had earlier in the season was a proper test for us because you were an established championship side. Do you start the season as fans thinking, right, this will be the season we're going to make a push for it? Do you think this is the season we're going to be lucky to stay up? Or you kind of like, if we finish anywhere between sort of like 8th to 16th and have another season in the championship for clubs, our size, similar, do you think that's, what, we're okay with that? Or do you think the expectation levels change all the time?
Yeah, I think going into the season, given we finished 6th in the championship last year, and I think if I remember rightly, our owners and the communications were that we want to do better than we did last season. And I think up until maybe late 2025, sort of the December games, we were kind of in that position. And then for our season, the wheels kind of just totally came off in January, really, when we sold Zach Viner, Anis Vermette, left it late to sign replacements. Then it's all kind of really gone downhill from there for us, to be honest.
I find it fascinating. I mean, to sort of build on what Mark asked as well. So I keep referencing this game at Port Vale in the FA Cup where you got beat, and these videos came out of the away end. And I remember being a little bit shocked and surprised because, I mean, Charlton fans, we spent the vast majority of the last decade in League One. We sort of look at being mid-table in the Championship for a number of years as something that at minimum we want to aim for. But is it a case of Bristol City fans have just got bored of that now after a while? Like, it's like you, Preston, Stoke, you're always rolling around in the same places in the Championship, and now you want to see some of that progression.
Yeah, absolutely. And rival fans might look onto it as sort of ungratefulness, really. But Bristol City as a football club have been, up and down within the Championship, dipping down to League One for near enough sort of 20 years now. And it hasn't really, I mean, we finished in the playoff places in 2008 and got to the playoff finals where we lost 1-0 to Hull in 2008. And we haven't really beaten that in 20 years almost. So, yeah, that's kind of the feeling, really.
Well, there we go. Well, fascinating stuff. I mean, we're all going to have a keen eye on what happens between now and the end of the season because it is very interesting. But like I said earlier, good luck to Bristol City. You've got my uncle's former PE teacher in charge now for a few weeks. My uncle in his early 60s, former PE teacher. So it'll be fascinating to see how he goes. So look, for all the jokes, I think Roy Hodgson is a very respected character in football, and as you said, he's one of the most honest people I've ever seen. Like sometimes too honest. So hopefully after Good Friday, he'll have an enjoyable run with you guys, and you can enjoy the rest of your season.
I hope so too, mate. I hope so too.
Lovely stuff. Enjoy the rest of your holiday, Tom. Thanks for your time this evening.
Take care, folks. Lovely to be on. Thanks for having me.
There we go. That's Tom from the Robin's Nest. As I say, check out his channel as well if you want to see a little bit more of his reaction to the shenanigans at Bristol City over the last few days. I was sitting down and watching some of it earlier, and it is fascinating to get a real feel of how people are feeling down there. Right, let's have a look ahead to the game from a Charlton point of view. The Addicts boss Nathan Jones sat down for his pre-match presser with Tell earlier on today.
Is one of the most important things that we're going to face now going into the last 7 games as we get towards the end. The fact that our destiny's on our own hands, and would that have been your goal, one of the goals, obviously, to start at the start of the season. I mean, as fans, obviously, we're going to look at results elsewhere, but if we perform at our best, then it doesn't matter what anybody else does. Is that one of the most important things?
I want us to finish high as possible, because if we finish high as possible, then we can show that we're not too far off where our goal is. And the closer we get to our goal, then the more the better planning, the more realistic planning, the sanity of our plans come into play, because we are bang on track in everything that we do, for where we want to go and where our final destination is. We are bang on track, in terms of everything. And I want to finish as high as possible. I don't want this season to peter out. I don't want us just to we are better than that, and we've shown that. And we had a great start. We had injuries. We know we've recovered now and going. And now, I want us to win games. I want us to show that we can be ultra competitive, because that will, one, help recruitment, two, sell the football club, to sell certain aspects of that. Fans get behind everything and can reiterate that hope that we are closer to where we want to be than we were when we started the season.
You mentioned injuries, and of course I've got to ask, I think you mentioned a little while ago that the likes of Matty Garden, Harvey Nibbs and Luke Berry may be available as we come out of the international break. Is that still the case?
Yeah, our squad is stronger coming out of the international break than it was going in.
And the other two, Collins and Jenjo, one of the other players injured, I guess he's not as close, but how is he?
Yeah, he's him and Berkey are the two that are a little bit further off than the others.
Okay. How important could this almost 2 weeks without a game be in the run into these last 7 games?
I don't know. I don't really like international breaks, really, because you have to pick back up where you were. You were in good rhythm and stuff, and it's important to have downtime and to then get players back and so on. And then we're very proud of our internationals and stuff. But it's a big disruption, international breaks. They are on every level. So we'll see. We'll see how we come out of it. What I want us to do is be positive. We trained a bit last week. We've had a normal week leading into this, and with only obviously the disruption of the two Jamaican boys playing later, and then playing in Mexico, is the only thing that we're having to deal with.
This was going to be my exact next question about. I mean, it hasn't done you any favours. I mean, Lyndon obviously played in the UK, so it's not quite as big a deal. But the Jamaican lads are coming back from, as you say, Mexico, and that's obviously going to affect the selection because the game's on Friday, right?
Yeah, well, ironic that the Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire played in Everton, because it was their home game, because they have a number of European and English-based players, or European-based players. Jamaica versus Congo, which is predominantly Belgium and Britain, have to play in Mexico, in Guadalajara. You couldn't write it.
I'll leave it there. Look, Friday sees us take on Bristol City, and it's another team with a new manager that we've got to face, and it's Roy Hodgson. They've been on a difficult run, obviously no win in 6. Bringing in Roy Hodgson, you're expecting, obviously it's a championship, so it'll be a tough game, but you're expecting a reaction, I guess.
Again, we can't affect. We seem to be coming up against with either the final game or the first game that managers have. We've made a habit of that this year, and as I said, the same message is I have no idea what Bristol City are going to do, what shape they're in, or what they do with the mentality or anything. All I can affect is ours, and as long as our mentality is good, and we can improve on the certain things that we've been working on this week to improve from the Norwich and the Wrexham performances, and to build on the Middlesbrough and the Birmingham games, then that's all I can affect.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones, or Daddy, as Jones reminds us that we call him. Is looking ahead to the game with Bristol City on a Good Friday. Do you remember the start of the season? I kept calling Bristol City Bristol Rovers because I couldn't forget. I couldn't remember that we were not in League One anymore. So I've seemed to have got that out of my system, which is nice. But yeah, he's in good spirit. It is weird, like the fact that the Jamaican lads have had to play so far away from home, but I guess it's a competitive fixture, whereas the Ivory Coast game that was played in England was a friendly, so maybe there is something to do with that. Like, you've got to play a competitive fixture a little bit nearer to where your fans are, but it does make things a little bit more difficult for our players. I mean, do you think, the players who haven't been involved in international football, Joe, do you think the break came at a good time or a bad time? Because we had a disappointing result just before the international break. Obviously, defeat against Norwich, but on another day we get something out of that game. And then the 3 before that was that excellent week, and then we had the Wrexham game before that where we should have got something out of it. So you could argue we're in pretty decent form at the moment. So has the break come at a good time or a bad time for us, do you feel?
I'd probably say good time. So I think we're always light in terms of the depth of squad, and an opportunity to rest certain players is certainly helpful. The likes of Jones, who have been carrying knocks throughout the season, really at different times, and obviously if one of Godden, or Nibs is closer to being able to get onto the bench, and obviously that's a benefit. And Chambers, we know, can't play week in, week out all of the time, 90 minutes. So he's another one that benefits from having a little bit of time off. So I think from that perspective, it's benefited us. It's also given Bristol City, a week and a half to just put dynamite under their entire squad and have a reset, which could be good or could be bad. I just want to see us come into this with a bit of vigor and a bit more cohesion in how we attack and how we play. I hope that Jones has been able to get them on the training ground and really work on that possession side of the game as well as the defensive side of the game. And if we've been able to get those patterns of play improving and developing, and that gives us a nice bit of momentum to run into the rest of the season and therefore into the summer, then that will be time that is hugely valuable and time well spent. And for the likes of Jones, even, who is just always on and at a million miles an hour, I think he's a manager that needs international breaks just on a personal level, just to get moments to go back with the family, recharge, just take a step away from the all-encompassing football world and just recharge his battery. So yeah, I'm never going to say for us that international breaks come at a particularly bad time, even if we're in a really good run of form, because you're one injury away from pretty big gaps in the team, and Bell is ironically one of those, and doesn't get an international break. He has to fly to wherever and play for Jamaica. But outside of sort of him and TC, I do think it gives us a real opportunity to get players back into a more rested frame of mind. Having said that, I don't think it's worked particularly well for us this season, and I don't remember us doing particularly well after international breaks, but at least we've got 2 games pretty quickly this time. So if we do get off to a bad start, we've got one to put it right on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of in the start of the season, we would lose the game going into an international break, and then we came back against Millwall at home and played quite well, but obviously didn't win. Then lost away at Preston, but then came back against Sheffield Wednesday and won, and then beat Ipswich. I had a couple of good weeks, but then I think after the last one, or when we've had breaks recently, like we didn't have a Saturday game going into that Tuesday at home to Portsmouth, and we looked really poor. And those things didn't quite pan out how we want. So it will be interesting to see how we come out of the game the other side. Richard says need to start Charlie Kelman, as does Sam, thinks Charlie Kelman needs to start the game up top. Dr. Peculiar is asking if do we think Kaminsky will come back in, Mark? I can't see any reason why Manuel would be dropped. I think Sam agrees with that as well. What's your view?
No, I can't see coming in unless there's an injury. I think Mannion's got the gloves now, and rightly so. I think he's shown that he is a good keeper himself. And it's always difficult when there's only one position you can sort of like slot into. That, you're either going to be in or out. There's no kind of like, I might get a chance on the subs bench to come on and make a difference. Not really for goalkeepers. And I think with Kaminsky, I was really excited when we signed him at the start of the season, because I thought, always thought he was a really sort of like decent keeper. And it's not like he's dropped a load of rickets, but there's just something about his keeping I don't think has improved this season. And I think with Mannion's handling and not being afraid to come off his line and being stuck sometimes, and we know, he's comfortable with a comfortable pair of hands. So no, I think that would be an unnecessary change. There's no need for it. I don't think Kaminsky's been outstandingly brilliant, so he can come back in straight away. So I think whoever's got the gloves, deserves them.
You're right, though. It's difficult for goalkeepers. The fact there is only one position, you're sort of you're sort of typecasting yourself as a goalkeeper. You should diversify. You should be a goalkeeper who can also play right back and keep your options open, really, shouldn't you? So I mean, in terms of the midfield, I mean, Mark mentioned maybe a Joe Rankin Costello. I mean, can you see changes in that part of the pitch? Obviously, it was the classic Coventry, Doherty, and Carey in the middle against Norwich a couple of weeks ago. Would you make changes there?
It's difficult because I love Doc's energy. I love Cov. I love Sonny because I mean we haven't seen one for a little bit, but the goals that he can get bring out of nowhere, it's difficult. But then when Joe comes on, he does do bits. So I'm like, I never want to be a football manager because I wouldn't be able to make those decisions. But going in my heart, I would stick with the same. I would stick with Cov, Doc, and the Ginger Genius.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that pans out. Right, Arnold says this week wasn't the same without Charlton Live. Glad we're back. Come on, your res. Cheers for that, Arnold. Yeah, it's nice to have a week off every now and then, but you do miss sort of talking about Charlton. We had an email as well that came in from Ken. Says Charlton is a great club. However, on the pitch, we tend to look at the here and now. What Nathan and our board have done should lift us all. Think back 2 years ago. We all get emotional, not least Nathan. But let's remember, he takes a long view. Referencing a young Tyrese Campbell. Back in the 60s, we had a decent 17-year-old Lenny Glover, a left winger. He became exceptional when we sold him to then First Division Leicester, probably the best uncapped winger not to have ever played for England. To those that criticise Tyrese Campbell, be careful what you wish for. Trust Nathan Jones. Yeah, he wants to see Tyrese given a bit more breathing space. Well, he mentioned a player there from the 50s in the 60s, I should say, in Lenny Glover. There has been the Hall of Fame announcement. The inductees for this year have been announced. I thought it'd be a nice chance to talk about some of them. So just to take you through the list. So they have three categories pre-1955. So this year, Billy Kiernan has got in. He's only one of 8 Charlton players who have made more than 400 appearances for the club. 1956 to 1990, Bob Boulder. And 1991 to present, Chris Solly, and then the women's team, Kim Dixon, has gone in as well. So, Mark, just for your expert opinion on the pre-1955 Billy Kiernan, was he just before your time?
Just a touch before my time. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, no, but Bob Boulder, really, when I started watching, Nicky Johns was keeper, and then sort of like Bob came in, and he was never flashy, but he was solid. I mean, really decent with, and it's funny to mention the kind of thing because nowadays it's really intense football with the amount of pressure. But Bob played with a smile on his face almost, and he's the kind of fella. And anyone who speaks to him now, he's got time for people. He's genial, and to be quite honest, that's what he was like as a goalkeeper. He was never kind of like psychotic shouting at people and stuff. He did his job, and he did his job well. And a couple of games, especially, remember him playing and outstanding saves he was making. But he didn't look like a goalkeeper, and that's not really meant to be. He looked like almost like a pub player, but he wasn't. If you know what I mean, he's got that kind of build and stature. Nowadays, we're all supposed to be athletic and bendy and bounce around. He wasn't. He turned up, put the gloves on, and he stopped the ball from going in. Absolutely deserves. I mean, the only thing I'm gutted about is that Johnny Humphrey was the runner-up again, and it's just a crime that he's not in there already. So, but Bobby Boulder as a keeper was terrific, absolutely terrific.
Yeah, Johnny Humphrey will get another go then. That's the way. But I think he's been second quite a few years now as well, so he's been quite unlucky really with that. But obviously I never saw Bob play. I've seen a video of his penalty save. I think from Ian Rush at Liverpool at Anfield in front of the Kop, which is quite a famous moment. He was on the books at Liverpool for a while as well, but I think we've all seen him around the club still. He's with the community trust. We've done bike rides out to Amsterdam with him, and he's a larger-than-life character and very popular, and it sounds like he was a good goalkeeper as well. So, I mean, you get the pleasure to talk about Chris Solly then. So, particularly, I mean, for people of my age so the 2012 season, when I was just sort of getting to that age now where I could really start to afford to travel around the country on my own, the couple of years around that. So the fact he played such a big part in that side that got promoted from League One with 101 points under Powley, and to see how well he equipped himself in the Championship as well. And, he's back with the club now in a coaching role with the youngsters. No surprise to see someone of his quality going into the Hall of Fame.
No, I mean, Sol's he's one of our own, comes from our academy, one club man. I mean, did he go on to play at Ebbsfleet after he left us? But in terms of at a higher level, I can't say enough positive things about Sol's. He was, I think if he hadn't struggled with his injuries, he would have played at a higher level, 100%. For what you would say is a pretty small guy for a defensive player, but just felt so secure when he was playing, and very Mr. Reliable, and such a down to earth, lovely guy. And when they said he was coming back to work with the academy, I thought he's perfectly placed for that. He's done it himself. So when you're mentoring these players, it's not just about the playing side of stuff. It's about growing as a man and learning how to behave and that sort of thing. And Solly was one of them. He wasn't one of the party boys. He was just a really, really nice, down to earth, grounded lad, and never changed. I mean, he was a ball boy prior to making his first team entrance, but as all the academy lads do, it's part of their job. And I think it just shows he's very humble, and nothing was too much for him. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't one of those ego players. He went about his business quietly, did his job, and went home. And I've got so much respect for Soles, and I'm absolutely buzzing for him.
Yeah, famously only 5'3" according to his song as well. Although I do remember him tweeting actually I'm like 5'8" or something like that, which was quite funny. But he's got he didn't, obviously not someone who scored many goals, but I mean the goal away at Blackpool was an absolute screamer. That infamous last minute equaliser away at Luton as well, which I think at the time was his first goal in about 6 years as well. So yeah, loads of really positive memories. I always remember his first goal as well, which was a late clincher at Leyton Orient when we had. It was like a Friday night game. We had 10 men. So we got 1-0 up, went down to 10 men, and it went 1-1. And then we were got 2-1 ahead with a nice goal from Wagstaff. I was watching this on holiday, funnily enough. And I remember I was sitting there, just drinking away my nerves in some bar in, where were we? In Iron Appa. Being one of very few people actually watching the game. And then seeing that Wagstaff was taking the ball towards the corner, and thinking, right, I'm safe now. They're just going to take it to the corner. We're going to see the game out. So I'm just going to take a big celebratory swig of my drink. And then he crossed it into the middle out of nowhere and Solly just far post. And I just sprayed my drink absolutely everywhere, celebrating when that went in as well. So yeah, and Kim Dixon as well, we should mention. So Charlton fan, worked with the Community Trust as well since retirement. But she played a lot of games for Charlton Athletic Women. And a big part in obviously where the club sort of had to reform and then come up through the years and taking ourselves into the Championship and where we are now with what looks like a good chance of going up to the WSL as well, Joe.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those that they sort of skirt underneath the radar. I think generally sort of the women's team, but this season's case in point, it's they are right on the precipice of a big achievement. It's a little bit of a shame. They've been second in the last 2 seasons or so, and pipped at the post. And then now we've expanded it. We decided we look like we're going to win the league when we don't even need to. But yeah, Dixon's a name that's been around for a long time, and even people like myself who didn't massively follow the women's team, is a name I 100% recognise, and it is a face even that I 100% recognise. So it's nice to see that as a club that we are including everyone as well, across the old present, not so old, but also the women's section as well, because it is a massive part of the club, and it is going to be a massive part of the club going forward. That the women's game is growing and growing and growing, and we all know that. And it's good that as a club we are including, all parts of the club in that induction into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and they've got the FA Cup quarter-final coming up this weekend against Liverpool at the Valley. So, Liverpool side are in the division above, but sort of near the bottom. So I think this is considered a chance to maybe get into the semi-finals of the FA Cup. So check that one out down at the Valley on Sunday as well, if you want to get down there and watch that. It's a 2:30 kickoff against Liverpool. And yeah, hopefully they're going to get into the WSL as well. They have had a little stumble over the last few weeks as well. James is saying that my uncle should get a shout for the Charlton Live Hall of Fame, but he is a Palace fan, actually, James, so we will withdraw that immediately. Right, we've run out of time on that note. He watches this show as well, so he probably would have heard that as well, actually. But we're going to leave it there. Thanks to everyone who's joined us on this week's big match preview. Day early because we're playing on Friday, so make sure you get yourself down to the Valley for 3 o'clock on Good Friday for our game against Bristol City. Right, we're going to be back on Saturday morning is my plan, although I haven't actually run that past anyone yet, but hopefully we'll have some people available on Saturday morning to look back at the game against Bristol City and ahead to Easter Monday's trip over to Watford. So hopefully you'll be able to join us then. But for now, Joe, Mark and Sue, it's an absolute pleasure as always.
Thanks, so don't eat too many eggs.
Don't tell me what to do in my own house, Sue. I will be eating too many eggs, I can assure you. Right, this has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube and wherever else you see your pod as well. But I'm Louis Mendes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again on Saturday morning.